So hello and welcome back to this lecture. So the topic we were discussing was about the revolt of 1857. We have discussed about the causes of the revolt of 1857 and how the revolt is spread from the Meerut military cantonment towards Delhi and then into towards the regional various kingdoms or centers like Jagdishpur, like Jhansi, like the other areas of Bihar, Awadh, Lucknow. So all these were the areas where the revolt of 1857 is spread under the leadership of various prominent personalities of that period of time. Also, we have seen multiple causes. The causes like political causes, where the annexation and consolidation of princely state took place. Then we saw how the administrative regions were the main causes for the revolt of 1857. Socio-political reasons like interference in the local cultures and the local values, like widow remarriage act and each and everything. Then we also saw that how the military personals were treated badly and unequal treatment were given to them by the British officials. So all these causes now got intertwined, and this led to the massive reaction by the Indians with 1857 revolt. But there is a debate among the historians that what was the nature of revolt of 1857. How can you characterize or how can you define that revolt of 1857? So there are multiple views. Some see this revolt as the national awakening against the Britishers. Some see this as a local or sepoy level, just an attack or you can say fight against the British forces. Some see this as the first war of independence, while some others say that it was neither a war, neither the first war, neither the last war. It was just a grievance, collective grievances of the multiple people. So let's see what are the views of the different historians about the revolt of 1857. So the opinions were regarding the nature of 1857 had very diverse. British historians label it just barely a Sepoy mutiny, and according to Sir John Seeley, who is one of a very good historian, it was a wholly unpatriotic, selfish Sepoy mutiny with no native leadership, no popular support. So, according to him, this was a selfish movement or a fight, the selfish movement of the sepoys, of the soldiers. Why? They wanted better salary, they wanted better treatment, so they fought against the Britishers. There was no patriotic feeling as such for the country. However, such characterization fails to capture the full complexity of the event, as it encompassed participation from various segments. If this was a selfish sepoy mutiny, then why across the whole north of Vindhyas came under this movement is a very big question. Why the people from peasant class, artisan class, they joined this movement? So you cannot just term it as a Sepoy mutinies. Counter the other historians. Dr. K. Datta views 1857 report as a primary military uprising exploited by certain dissatisfied princes and landlords whose interests clashed with the changing political landscape. So, Kedatta's views that it was a military uprising where the other people who had their own self-interest, they jumped the ship and they started fighting against the Britishers or the foreign rule. So one view we can say is that it is a merely a sepoy mutiny where no patriotic feeling was there. Let's move towards the other views. So the element lent into a rebellion, the previous use, and according to Datta, it was never a uniformly widespread throughout the India, but rather confined to a localized areas and lacked effective organization. So Datta further views, apart from military uprising, it was not a uniformly spread attack or a movement. So it was just a localized, it was just in some pockets and in the localized areas where people fought for the against the Britishers for their own rights, and they had no common leadership, and they all lack unity. However, by the onset of 20th century, when the nationalism were at its peak, V.D. Savarkar book wrote about the Indian War of Independence, that is 1857. So he was the first person or first important personality who coined 1857 as the War of Independence. And he reintroduced the interpretation of 1857 as a meticulously planned struggle for independence. So he gave the push towards this new view or opinion that from 1857 Indians had started their war against the Britishers' suppression. Savarkar labeled it as India's inaugural war for independence, driven by a noble aspiration of Indian self-governance through a surge of nationalism. So he spoke about how India's nationalism had started from 1857. Dr. S.N. Sen, in his work 1857, suggests that the revolt initially commenced as a religious conflict but evolved into a broader struggle. So Dr. Essensen points out that there might be a chances when these revolts were from or through a narrow lens. However, after gradual succession, the revolts got broader and the struggle was ultimately for the independence. However, in contrast, many other Indian historians like R.C. Majumdar holds a different perspective, contending that the 1857 revolt cannot be classified as the first nor this national or a war of independence. So he totally gives a opposite view in comparison with V.D. Savarkar. He says that it was not the first because multiple reactionary movements were going on in India before 1857. It was not national. Why? Because it was not pan-Indian. It was just in some local pockets, and it was not a war of independence because people were fighting for their own causes. They were not fighting for some nationalism as such. And according to him, significant portions of the country remained unaffected, and many segments of the populace refrained from participating in the uprising. Many people did not participate. Upper middle class did not participate at all. Many regional kingdoms like Rajputana, they did not participate at all. So the area was limited. The Marxist historians point out that the struggle of 1857 was a struggle of soldier and peasants democratic alliance against both foreign as well as the feudal subjugation. So they points out that this was a rise of the one class, that is of the soldiers and the peasants against the suppressing class. So the depressed class is fighting against the suppressing class. However, this perspective may be challenged considering that the leaders of the revolts themselves hailed from the feudal background. So this view altogether fails because many of the rich or the landlords, they were fighting with the soldiers. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, he categorized the revolt of 1857 primarily as the feudal uprising. So he also uh, gave a similar view like the Marxist historians that